how best we can deal with such matters as our contribution towards our nation's growth. We are live on GBC News, GTV, and on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Humo Abdullahi. Today we are discussing the use of technologies in the administration of elections. Elections are a major contribution to the democratic process in every country, but the acceptance of the election results would depend on efforts made by administrators to ensure that the exercise is credible and the results are acceptable by a large number of voters and stakeholders. In Ghana, attempts to improve on the administration of the elections began prior to the 1996 elections with the introduction of photo ID cards for voters. Then in 2012, the Electoral Commission attempted to use a biometric technology, the BVRV, our first attempt at using technology in elections. Today, our discussion will center on Ghana's journey so far and the way forward, especially as the country is working towards the 2024 polls in 18 months. I have with me Cliff Ekufo, a journalist with the New Times Corporation. We are also expecting in the studio Sarah Zugraf Johnson, a freelance journalist. Welcome, Cliff.
Thank you.
How was your week?
Not bad. Very tiring, but I think it was worth it.
Well, before we delve into our discussion, there was a conference organized by the University of Ghana on the use of technologies for elections during the week. Let's take a look at this video.
After the 1996 elections, Ghana has taken various steps towards involving the use of technology at the various stages of the electoral process. Led by a former chairman of Ghana's Electoral Commission, Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan, the country introduced the biometric verification device for capturing physical features and demographic data of eligible voters. Subsequently, the DVR and BVR have been introduced in both the registration of citizens and in the voting process. Electoral specialists say these technological devices and processes have helped in eliminating impersonation and multiple registration. However, unlike other countries such as Kenya and Nigeria, Ghana is yet to reach a level where a similar technology can be used in the collation and transmission of election results. The Conference of Electoral Stakeholders was to look at the challenges, the progress made so far, and how to improve further upon our electoral system to make future elections more credible. A former chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan, said though technology is relevant in any electoral process, it should be used cautiously.
The most important activity in the post-election phase is the tabulation or collation of the votes obtained by the candidates. This activity is, as of now, heavily human-driven and requires only rudimentary technologies for accurately adding up figures and, where applicable, transmitting the results. The fact that election results can be manipulated would indicate that as we seek to improve the use of technology in elections, we must at the same time also find ways to improve the human factor.
Panelists agreed that technology, though important, cannot be solely relied upon to ensure the success of any election.
How do we address the registration of minors and the registration of foreigners?
We should take a second look at the way our results are transmitted. In the last election, we had problems with some minor mistakes which technology could have avoided.
The system is being run in a very opaque manner, such that political parties don't even understand the systems the Electoral Commission run anymore. and you would suggest that we should go the Nigerian way and go and do collation of results from polling stations.
A software engineering and data science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, Mr. Mark Atamensa, said to remove doubt in election results, his department is ready to help with blockchain technology for the transmission of results from the collation centers to the EC head office.
Join us. It is still Reporters Roundtable. We are live on GBC News, GTV, and on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. I have in the studio with me Cliff Ekofo from the New Times Corporation. Cliff, you were on the ground during the 2012 general elections. This was our first attempt of trying the use of technology in our electoral process. How will you assess the exercise the first time?
I think the impression that was the first, our first attempt at using technology would be wholly inaccurate.
Okay.
Because right from 1992, every bit of our electoral process has involved some level of technology. So the printers that are using are all technology. So technology has been with us. The only difference is that every election cycle we have tried to improve on the technology available for usage. That is what we have done over the years. And so you see that in terms of the use of technology, the 1996 election was an improved version of the 1992. The year 2000 was an improved version of 96. 2004, an improved version. 2008, same. Probably I understand why you chose to refer to 2012 as the period when we ushered in technology, because that was when we decided that we are going to introduce what we call the biometric verification system, which invariably is a more superior technology compared to what has existed. Because prior to that period, the technology we have used was to capture your picture and place it in the photo album. But in 2012, we decided that beyond the facial identification, we can also employ the use of bio technology, which imply that in addition to your facial identification, you could use distinct features on your body, that is our fingerprints, to make the process more fairer and open for all. So we introduce that particular technology. Indeed, in 2016, yes, we had some challenges with the introduction of that technology. And after the election, we had to sit down and see how we can improve on that technology. So you realize that the challenges that we had in 2012, following the introduction of the biometric system, in 2016, by and large, was absent. In 2016, we moved a little bit further beyond just the biometric and even how the election results was done. That was the new introduction. That is the transmission, electronic transmission of results. You realize, because it was a new technology, as usual, in 2016, we had a problem. And I'm sure anybody, everybody who observed the 2016 election, the results, I think after the first few results had trickled in, there was a hold up. Subsequently, we were informed that the EC system had faced some challenges, and that was because we had introduced a new technology. In 2020 was an improved version of the technology, because the kind of biometric system we used in 2020 was an improvement over what we used in 2012 and in 2016. So technology has always been with us, whether faxing the results or whether capturing our photographs as part of the electoral system has always been because of available technology at the time. It is just that over the years we have tried to improve on our use of technology for our electoral processes.
The use of this biometric voter registration and verification, I know one of the major reasons we tried to adopt it was to check impersonation and overvoting.
Sure.
Did you think that we have been able to achieve that with time?
Well, so in 2012, we introduced that technology to address a particular kind of a problem. Unfortunately, sometimes mastering technology does not come at a go, and it doesn't come easy. You have to sometimes apply it over a period of time before you can master that particular technology. So, indeed, in 2012, we had some challenges. You remember people washing their fingers with coke, and all those stories were stories some of us witnessed at some of the polling stations. People had to do because the technology could not pick some fingerprints. And so it became necessary that after that election, and don't forget, 2012 was the period where we had to do our presidential and parliamentary elections on 2 days running, because in some places the failure was so widespread such that we couldn't but postpone the elections, because at some places the battery had challenges, not picking of fingers and all those things.
And some places we didn't even have the machines.
The machines at all. So those were the challenges. But to be fair, you realize that in 2016, remarkable improvements over it. In 2016, some of the incidents were reported in 2012 were absent. 2016 came with its own challenges in terms of use of technology. And then in 2020, when we decided to do away with the old biometric system and introduce new, we saw the hullabaloo, the noise, the apprehension, the misgivings. But it turned out that 2020 was one of the elections in terms of voters visiting their polling stations and not having challenges. So the technology that was introduced was an improved version of what we had in 2012 and in 2016. So yes, we keep on making progress as a country. And for me, I think as a human being in the 21st century, you can't do without technology. Technology has come to be part of our everyday lives, and we will continue to live with it until such a period when probably there is nothing called technology. But for as long as technology exists, and in the 21st century we keep on improving on the kind of technology available to us, we are going to live with technology, and it is going to be part of our electoral system for a very long time to come.
But we keep improving upon technology. Don't you think that what we should rather concentrate on is perfecting on what we have already before we try to move forward? Because if you watch the conference, the former chairman of EC, Dr. Afrejan, was saying that at this point we have been able to get a technology for the registration and even the voting. What we need now is one to take care of the collation, because if you remember the collation of the results, that is where people have a lot of problems with. If it is not done well, then we say there's overvoting and impersonation and all that. Do we think that we are rushing?
Well, I think I listened to him, and his point was that we need to hasten slowly.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that is true. In terms of collation, even at the collation, there is some level of technology, because you are summing up figures. Ordinarily, you could do it on top of your head, because 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 3 is 5 on top of your head. But then you are looking at the volume, so there is the need to use some technology. And so our calculators come in handy. So basically, it is the calculator that plays key role at the collation centers. And I have visited a number of collation centers from 2000 till date. And you realize that, yes, there's some element or large element of human involvement in the collation process. But it largely also borders on how vigilant and how adept you are with the technology available to you. Some use their laptops, others use their calculators, because as the figures are mentioned, you keep queuing. Sometimes somebody may say it is the technology, but technology itself responds to what you, the human being, wants it to do for you. So if you are to queue in 31 and you mistakenly queue in 13, which is a turning figure, the technology will give you a particular output, because the input you have made requires that you receive that output, and that will not be because the technology was wrong or was inappropriate. It was because you, as the human element, actually got it wrong, and that is why the technology is also getting strong. After we say garbage in, garbage out. What you put in is what you receive. So yes, technology will be there, but technology will never be a substitute for the human vigilance.
Most definitely, if you're a part of the conference, he kept saying that even though we are trying to improve upon technology, we should also enhance the human resource, because you can't depend solely on technology.
Yes, of course.
You need the human beings to also be up in their game. But I know that sometimes it's during the counting, like the collation, that we have issues. If the numbers are not done correctly at the collation center, then there's a problem. One party will have a problem with it. In your opinion, if we are to employ technology in the collation process, do you think it should be done at the polling center or the collation center?
So the question will be, what type of technology are you talking about? This day, the world itself is even moving from digital to the artificial intelligence. So are you saying we'll have to deploy artificial intelligence at our over 30,000 polling stations? Is that the kind of technology? We are not there yet, because we shouldn't forget technology is expensive. And indeed, if you look at election budgets for our country, that's very huge. The issue is more of training the human beings to master the act of the usage of the technology. Yes, a calculator may be very, very fundamental in terms of, if you compare it with the kind of technology available now. A calculator still serves the purpose for which it was created. How you use it depends on your own ability. How you use it depends on your own ability. So, like I gave the example, if you decide that instead of 13, you queue in 31, the calculator will give you a result that is different from what you may be expecting, because you have decided or erroneously queued in what you did not intend to. And so the training of the human is very, very important. Even if you decide to deploy artificial intelligence will not on its own act. It will act based on the information given to it or how it is programmed by the human being. So if you program it that when you see 21, make it 12. It will give you that kind of result. So yes, deployment of technology, very, very important, very critical as we move forward in our democratic journey. But training the human beings is very, very important. Well, there is a reason for which after 1992, if you follow the 1992 elections, we didn't have anything like polling agents and all that. And I realized that could create, or that created some problem for, or room for some kind of manipulation. Let's have agents for various political parties at the polling stations so that they would help in policing. 10 people are supposed to vote. 5 people turn out. That is what we record. So that at the end of the polling, we come together, we do a tally and realize that indeed 10 ballots were printed, 5 turned out, so only 5 were issued. Yes, 10 were printed, 5 turned out, but 1 got his or her process of voting wrong. The person brought it back, it was changed. So 6 were dispensed, and yet 5 stood as what was counted. Once we all agree and we go through the processes, we agree that by and large it was fair. And 1996, up 2000, said no, okay, we brought them in, but we made them sit too far from consensus. We agreed that okay, let us bring them within a certain radius where their eyes could pick what was going on with the electoral officers. Clearly, it worked for us in 2000. So whatever it is the human element that is very, very important. It's very, very critical. No amount of technology can be substituted with the human element. If the human beings you send there are lackadaisical, the technology will offer you a lackadaisical resource and you can't do anything about it.
But you see, that's my problem. Now we are saying that we cannot do without the human element.
Yeah.
Even with technology, we still need the human beings to be there.
Yes.
Now, if we are comfortable with the human process and it is working perfectly for us, why do we even need technology?
So, yes, the human element may be working perfectly for us, but it is quite laborious, and technology eases that pressure. The deployment of technology. If I decide to use a calculator to tabulate a set of 100 figures, as in summing it up, as against you using the manual, we may all arrive at the same result, but the technology eases the stress in doing that. So yes, the technology comes in as coming to ease your burden. A cutlass on the farm does weeding. Same way, if you brought in a mechanized plow, it will plow the land for you. You get the same effect. But one is more laborious than the other. So it saves you time, it saves you energy, and it saves you some resource. Because if you are going to use 10 days in clearing 1 acre, technology may help you use maybe 1 hour to do that. And so you save how many hours more for other things. So yes, the human element is required, but the technology aspect comes to ease the pressure on you, makes things flexible for you. So yes, they go hand in hand.
But you see, we find ourselves in an environment whereby, I mean, if you need technology, definitely you need internet, you need network. We have a system whereby even in Accra here, sometimes it's quite difficult to get internet or your network working perfectly for us. Now we have a lot of our citizens in the rural areas, people who do not even have access to some of these things, areas where the network is terrible. If we want to use technology at an election exercise, these people also have the right to vote. Now if you go to such communities and the internet is not working, then what happens? Does it mean that we cut them off? We don't give them the chance to exercise their franchise?
So no, technology exists in various forms. So you choose what is appropriate for your circumstance. Because we have something we call appropriate technology. Yes, the fact that other countries are using artificial intelligence does not necessarily mean Ghana will have to import artificial intelligence in everything that we do. It may come and not serve the purpose because there are other variables that may inhibit the efficiency of artificial intelligence in our part of the world. So you do what we call appropriate technology. You understand your system. You know what your internet coverage is as a country. So in going to procure the technology, what kind of technology would you employ? I have followed elections. For example, the NPP, after 2012, decided that they will deploy a technology that will help their cause. So they have developed, they have gone in for a technology that makes them receive results from the remotest of polling stations on record time, or in record time. We have places where we refer to as overseas areas, and of course in parts of the northeast region we are referred to them as the overseas. Part of eastern region we refer to them as overseas because you need to cross a number of streams or rivers to access those areas. Those areas are areas without some electricity and sometimes even internet. But you have one political party that has analyzed the situation and has deployed that technology. The technology they are using may be termed as appropriate technology because it circumvents all these challenges we are talking about. If as a country, if we want to go technology, then what type of technology do we go in for? We must necessarily go in for a technology that works for us irrespective of the challenges we are talking about, and that becomes the use of appropriate technology.
Okay, Cliff, just hold on to that. We are joined on the line by Mr. Chris Atadika, a political marketing strategist. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, and a very good morning to all your viewers and listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us. We are discussing the use of technologies in our elections, Ghana's elections. In your opinion, how will you assess the use of technology in our elections so far? I mean, from 2012 till now.
Okay. I believe that as a country and as our electoral commission, we have seen various phases of the adoption of technology to strengthen our electoral processes. And when I say strengthen our processes, we are looking at processes to ensure that people do not cheat the system. Cheating the system would mean that people cannot vote more than 2 times, people cannot register in more than 1 polling station, people cannot engage in unscrupulous activities on election day. So I believe that over the years we have transitioned. I mean, looking at how we transitioned from just normal registration to biometric registration, even with the biometric registration where data is taken from 6, fingerprints, where if 5 is taken from your left hand, 1 will be taken from your right hand, to ensure that you cannot use your left hand to register in one police station and go to another police station to register with the other finger. I believe that series of technologies have also been done in terms of not only from the voter perspective, also from the registration of candidates. So you hear Dr. Trebo of the Electoral Commission saying that now you have most of the parliamentary candidates being given a code to do their applications online, and that is done through the Secretary Generals of the various parties. So a particular code is given to them to be given to their parliamentary candidates to present their or file their nominations online. So I believe that we've come a long way, and like we always say, there's still room for improvement.
Chris, there was a conference that was held during the week at the University of Ghana, and they were discussing the use of technologies in elections. The former chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kojo Afarajan, said that even though we need technology, we should hasten slowly. Do you think that we are speeding up a bit? Are we doing more than we can currently handle?
Great. I was at that particular conference, and I must say that it was very insightful hearing from Dr. Kojo Afarajan. Now, there is a model that we have in the literature when it comes to adoption of technology. It's called the technology acceptance model. Now, this model says that for people to adopt technology successfully, they first of all need to perceive its usefulness, and then secondly, its ease of use. Now, if people do not see that a particular technology is necessary to them, it is very difficult for them to adopt to it. Now, if they don't also see that this technology is easy to use and it is very complicated, they will not adopt easily or successfully to that particular technology. So I can understand Dr. Afarajan when he makes the statement that we should hasten slowly, because technology has its own, it has its pros and cons. And if it is not proper, it is not effectively adopted, or the stages of its adoption is not done properly, we may find ourselves in a situation where now people will not perceive its usefulness and people will not perceive its ease of use. And once that happens, it means that that technology will not be successfully accepted or successfully adopted. So I believe that even as much as we want to strengthen our electoral systems using technology, this technology has to go through a lot of phases, like the pilot testing phase, where it has to be tested over a period to be sure that this particular technology will be accepted. Mind you, when technology is even adopted, you will need the people to trust the system. So let me give you a typical example. For a very long time in this country, because of our cultural background and perspective, people who didn't feel comfortable interacting with ATM machines when ATM machines were being bought by most of the banks in the early stages, because they realized that if I go there and I put in 500 cedis, how sure am I that the machine is going to dispense 500? If I don't even get 500, who do I report to? Because it is a machine. So technology also comes with a certain level of trust. The users of that technology need to trust that particular technology. And so it goes beyond just saying that, hey, we've adopted this particular technology and we believe that it will help this particular process in our electoral cycle or in our electoral processes. people need to be sensitized. People need to be educated about its usefulness, and its ease of use has to be ensured to make sure that its adoption will be successful.
If you were at the conference and you heard Mr. Otokuno of NDC, he was saying that we even have a lot of issues that we need to deal with, and we must first deal with it before we can even think of moving forward. When you talk of the current CI in Parliament trying to ensure that the EC trying to ensure that we can only register using the Ghana card, do you agree with him that we have a lot of issues with our electoral system and we first need to deal with them before we can even think of other ways to improve them?
In fact, I agree with him to some extent, because we've been in this country where people in civil society organizations, a lot of people started raising their voices when the president actually appointed somebody who has, been in active partisan activities as one of the executive members of the Electoral Commission. And it got a lot of people upset, because they were like, no, if this this commission plays a regulatory role and plays a role of a referee in an electoral competition, why then would you have people in there who have a record of engaging in active partisan politics? Now, what that does is that it brings down public confidence. So, in fact, looking at a lot of the issues that Dr. Otukono raised at the conference, I don't even want to go into the specifics, where he cited issues of ballot papers being found somewhere, and some issues of, even using the Ghana card as a tool of for verification and all of that. I even want to concentrate on public confidence, because I believe that is more important. If the people do not trust what the referee is doing, or the officiating executive is doing in this particular race, then we would have an issue where now collation centers will turn into collision centers. People would come there to come and fight. People would, at the polling stations, the popular phrase, people say that elections are won or lost at the polling station, because when you leave the polling station and you want your grievances to be heard, by going to court, going to this, the appropriate authorities to report your grievances post an election process, you will not have, the results going in your favor, no matter the evidence you have. So that is what many have believed that has brought all this vigilantism, political vigilantism that we find in our elections every election year. That you find macho men mounting the various polling stations to ensure that voter intimidation or voter manipulation goes on. And then when that goes on, they know that their preferred candidate wins the election at the polling station or at the coalition centers. You will find people coming there to come and clash. And it will be a clash of various parties. So I believe that public confidence is more important as a way of ensuring that Ghanaians have a trust in the system. Because if even we adopt the technology, the first question is, who was the contract given to? Was the contract given to a foreign company? What is the relationship between that foreign company and a certain political party in Ghana? If the contract was even given to a Ghanaian company to bring up an innovative solution in our electoral process, the first question people will ask is, what is the relationship between that person and his dealings with a particular political party in this country or a particular government in this country? Now, when people start hearing that, maybe the software engineer or whoever was employed to bring up that software is somebody in connection with any government in the past, then now people start raising issues and saying that, no, you people are going to bring somebody who would bring a software that would favor a particular party. So I believe that as a country or as an electoral commission, we need to sit together and come to that conclusion that we need to boost public confidence in our electoral processes, be it technology oriented or not technology oriented. It is very important.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was Chris Atadika, a political marketing strategist. Did you agree, Cliff, did you agree with him on the fact that we should concentrate on boosting public confidence in our system?
I don't know what people actually mean when they say public confidence. For me, from where I sit, the public confidence, so-called, depends on where you stand on the aisle. Of course, and let me use these two dominant political parties. When they are in the driving seat, everything the Electoral Commission does is fair, perfect, and right. And they throw their support behind the Electoral Commission of the day. When they change position, they are for and against, and that has been the game from 1992 to date. For me, the most important thing is election is about figures. And once we agree that for the lack of trust we have for each other, every step of the way, let's have representative in there. Then it is the representative you put there that you must be sure of to police your interests and not blame the so-called referee, because he talks about the collation center. Electoral results are declared from the polling station. What the collation center does is to sum up all the results from the polling centers and then declare that, having summed up all the 100 polling stations, A got this and B got this. Realize that sometimes a polling station the results is declared and people begin to jubilate. And by the time the total results is declared, those who started jubilating realize that, oh, we were jubilating for nothing. So it is very, very important. Yes, let us have an electoral commission that does its work professionally. For me, it doesn't matter who is put in. And I always say it, when they are in government, they throw a challenge. You can even bring your wife or your mother to be the EC chair. We shall beat you. And then when the tables turn, the language changes. We need to be fair and sincere to ourselves. If we want to get public confidence in our electoral system, then we, as public commentators, civil society organizations, must hold the political actors to their work, to their principle. It can never be that when you are in government, everything the EC does is okay and fine by you. And yet when you get into opposition, everything done by the same electoral commission becomes evil for you. That is where I see the challenge. It is not so much about the human beings we even put in there. It is the principles our political actors hold and stand by. And that is what is lacking in our country, such that we are unable to deal with anything. A thief is a thief depending on what colors he or she is wearing at any given point in time. And if the person is wearing a pink shirt, those who believe pink color is the best will find a way to rationalize that particular act. And yet when somebody in mauve does the same thing, those in pink will find every way to demonize the person and vice versa. So for me, yes, public confidence is very, very important. But how do we get that public confidence? To get that public confidence is to hold the political parties to their principles, because you cannot cry a different cry when you are in government and give a different cry when you are in opposition. It is the dishonesty of our political class that breeds that level of suspicion, and we never make any progress. I have said, yes, if you want to really see whether Ghanaians have confidence.
Just hold on to that. We'll come back for you to continue with that. We have been joined by the phone Mr. Ben Efson, Managing Editor of Daily Dispatch. Good morning, Mr. Efson.
Good morning, and good morning to our viewers.
Thank you very much for joining us. We are discussing the use of technology in our elections. You have been participating in our electoral processes since 1992. What is your assessment of our use of technology so far?
Well, thank you very much. I think that I'm currently finishing my 7th book on Ghanaian elections. Now, if introducing technology is a way of trying to ensure that our electoral systems are clean, no complaints, I think that technology should be on the back burner, given our rather high literacy rate. I think that there are other steps that can be made which will facilitate. For example, the EC's decision to try in their new CI they are sending to Parliament to try and end voting at 3 p.m. is an important step, far better than technology. Because if you look at all the injuries, all the deaths, all the violence, it happens in the night. Now, when voting ends at 6 p.m., counting is being done in some areas, no electricity, you use car lights and so on. So ending voting at 3 p.m., maximum by 5 p.m., counting would have been done and violence would have been minimized. 2, to make voting more transparent, it is important that the two political parties, at least if there are about 300, let's say 300,000 polling stations or 30,000 polling stations across the country, NDC and NPP can boast of educated members who will be polling agents, who will ensure about the counting. But if you go and hire a polling agent, somebody who is just a commercial polling agent, you pay the person 200 cedis to be there from 7 to 8 p.m. And your opponent, they do to themselves, NDC and NPP. By around when counting, getting to about an hour and a half to end of voting, they pay the other person the balance, double the balance, and the person signs the form. So the cheating is not done with votes in the ballot box. No. If you total and you see that there are about 1,000 voters, and by 4 p.m. you total the votes, and about 700 people have voted. What they do is that the party which has sent the other party's commercial polling agent away, they will add about 250 votes. It is when the vote total exceeds the number of voters that the results are cancelled. So if a party is reckless and it hires polling agents for 2,000, 3,000 of his polling stations, and somebody gets 200 votes minimum per polling station, you know the harm. These are the steps I think if they are taken, it will enhance transparency. Maybe in the next 5-10 years, education would have gone a notch up, then we can think about technology as a way of enhancing credibility in our elections.
So, if I got you right, we first need to perfect our current system, what we are working on now. That is what we should make it perfect before we even think of technology. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is right.
When it comes to the confidence of voters, I mean, technology is important no matter what. It makes the process easier and faster for us. But when you take into consideration of our voters in the rural areas, if we want to go ahead with technology, how will we be able to ensure that we are successful to get the confidence of the voters, especially those who are not so educated?
Fortunately for us, the most highly educated person has one vote, and the one who hasn't stepped in the classroom before has one vote. That is why in some places you go, you see that the man in the house, the wife, they vote a particular party, the security guard, the driver, and so there are some constituencies that puts out such dynamics. I believe that technology is good, it is important, but we should not rush into it. We should get our basics right. You see, once technology has its advantage, and it has a lot of disadvantages too. Because if technology in our rural areas, when people are not too educated, it is easier to regulations with technology than even manual. So I'm not against technology, but once you start to crawl, you must learn to walk before running. That is my take on technology and elections.
Okay. My last question to you, there are examples like Nigeria and Kenya, where for them they have been able to find a kind of technology to help in the collation and then transmitting of electoral results. Some stakeholders think that we started this long before them and now they have gone ahead of us. Do you think that at this point we should also be doing like they are doing, or we still need to take care of our issues first before we think of the way forward?
I was following the just ended Nigerian elections, and if you look at the problem they had, you see that technology is a good master, but it can be a very bad master. And I think that I agree with that. We must proceed slowly and carefully before we go headlong into technology in assisting our elections.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ben Epson, Managing Editor of Daily Dispatch. Thank you very much for joining us today. Cliff, you heard what he said. We must hasten slowly. You said it yourself, but he also did mention that we shouldn't put so much relevance on the application of technology at this point. We should take care of our issues first before we think of the way forward.
And I don't think he meant relevance. What he meant was placing too much premium on technology. I cannot but to agree with Uncle Ben. The human aspect is very, very critical. And we were talking about confidence even in the EC. The so-called confidence is not because you have a EC that is not doing what is right. It is because our political actors over the years have tried hard to create that impression that you have an umpire that is not fair. And I have given you example because at least for the two dominant political parties, each of them have been in opposition before and each of them have been in government before. And we have heard the kind of comments they passed about the Electoral Commission, one in and out. And so it is the principle. What principle do we hold our political actors too. That is what is very, very important. Then Uncle Ben talks about at the polling stations. Yes, when I started, I told you that indeed the issue is about the quality of personnel you deploy to the polling station. So, like he said, there are people who have made themselves polling agents or see polling agent as some level of entrepreneurship. So I come to hire you, and in the course of imputing the figures, you know what you have on your sheet is 30, and yet 31 is mentioned, and you don't challenge it, and it goes against you. You can't blame anybody but the agent you sent in there. And we have heard that the political parties themselves know. And so sometimes you hear, oh, in this election, we are going to ensure that we deploy so and so personalities to man all the polling stations, and yet when the results come and it doesn't favor them, then the whole country is held to a ransom. So for me, technology, very, very important. But technology without quality human beings to man the technology will be at the detriment of this country. People are quick to cite Kenya and elsewhere. What they tend to tell us is that what are the principles held by the people in Kenya? Because we are different. Yes, all of us may be Africans, but we have different socialization, we have different orientations. And for me, I don't think we should just look at what is happening elsewhere and bring everything down here, hook, line, and sinker. It doesn't work that way, because you are dealing with unique human beings who think and reason differently from others.
Just before we go, what's your take on the attempts of EC to change the CI to ensure that we use only the Ghana card for the voter registration?
Well, so what is the rationale? For me, the most important thing is, what is the rationale? Would that rationale serve us as a people? Will it serve us better? If it will serve us better, how do we ensure that, yes, going forward, if we all agree that that is the way to go, how do we ensure that everybody who qualifies to have the Ghana card gets the Ghana card? Okay. You understand? Okay. Rather than, because most often, anytime a proposition is made, people just stand up against it without any alternative. I tell you, there was a time when we had Let My Vote Count. They called for a new register. People got named because of some level of demonstration. The register didn't change, and yet those who were calling for Let My Vote Count, and the only reason for which they believed their vote was going to count was for a new register, ended up winning the election, even though the register did not change. There was a period where we wanted to get a new register. There were those who resisted against it, and yet when the new register came into being, their fortunes even improved more than when they said no. So for me, it is how you rationalize the issue. And I say our electoral system is as good as the political actors. Nobody can blame anybody at the EC.
Cliff, I'll have to take that as your final comment. Our time is up. We're discussing the use of technology in the administration of elections. This has been the Reporters Roundtable. We're here with Mr. Cliff Ekufu, a journalist with the New Times Corporation. We're also joined online by Ben Epson, Managing Editor, Daily Dispatch, and Chris Atadika, a political marketing strategist. Thank you very much for joining us. Same time next week. Be blessed.